everyone. Welcome to the CXO Spice Talk. Today's topic is the future of accounting. I'm delighted to have Philippa Lawrence here, who is the Chief Accounting Officer at Workday.
Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
I'd love to hear about your story, how you got into accounting.
I've got out of accounting, which goes back actually to my grandmother, I've seen the world. You know, I'm English, I'm here in America talking to you, and you can be whatever you want to be in accounting. And I chose that I just wanted to see the world, and that's what I've done. And my grandmother at 98 went to the first foreign country out of England. She went to Austria, and she came back and she said, Philippa, the world is so small. Go see it.
Wow.
And I've done it through accounting.
Yeah.
So I love accounting.
Awesome. I can tell. Yeah.
So if I go back to my story, and I've told you a little bit. So I'm originally from the UK. I've worked in Germany. I've worked here. And I've worked in most positions in accounting for the past, and now I think about it, yikes, 30 years. Started as an auditor. And then after 6 years, I moved into industry. Never looked back. I've worked in different industries and different sizes. I worked for a startup. I worked with Google for 9 years. And now I'm so lucky to be the Chief Accounting Officer at Workday.
What do you really do as a Chief Accounting Officer?
That, but pretty glamorous. So my role as the CAO is to support the CFO and ensure that that CFO and the business has the numbers that they need to do their job in the most effective way. And of course, when they need it. But as a CAO, I don't just own the numbers. I have to understand the why behind the numbers. And that's where the fun starts. You really have to understand the business. And that comes through great partnerships, understanding where that data is coming from, and implementing ways to be able to extract important information from the data through flexible data models and analysis, which is focused on both our internal management reporting and the external management reporting.
That's those have long been by nature, right? Some of the most efficient person on the planet I have seen. Now, however, different demands are being asked of CAOs as we welcome the new world of work. So with so many accounting functions being automated, how technical savvy does a CAO really have to be?
Well, technology savvy has just become a basic skill for a CAO, and it's really for any senior finance executive for that matter. I'd venture to say that finance senior leaders are focusing more of their experience around technology, trying to understand that digital acceleration that's taken place. And the pandemic, of course, we all know has acted as a forcing function to speeding up the finance automation. As more CFOs find their finance operations in the cloud, I hope in the cloud anyway, to be more agile in response to boardroom, the market, and customer demands. And before I leave the subject, I want to just give you an example. You know, Barbara Larson, who has just become our CFO, she spent 2 years as a general manager in Workday's financial applications product team. So she got the knowledge of not only the product, but also the technology. And then she returned back to finance as an SVP of accounting, tax and treasury. And I think that's given her the perfect setup now to take over that CFO.
But with technology accelerating at a rapid rate, what is keeping you up night today that wasn't a concern 10 years ago?
You know, it's a very interesting question, and I'm going to answer it with actually the same things keep me awake now as did 10 years ago. And that's my ability to deliver timely, accurate, and relevant information to the business and to the CFO. What has changed is our expectations of what is timely with this digital acceleration. There's the expectation, and may I say demand, that we get data sooner. And that's what really keeps me up at night.
That's a salient point. I actually started my career as an accountant myself, right? I remember at the time using Excel was a major tech skill for team, right, members on the accounting team. And I felt like I was so ready for that role because I was Excel savvy. What about now? What is the important, the kind of impact of the technology advancement for the skill set required to be on the accounting team?
Well, that's another fantastic question, because I remember writing down on my resume that I had Excel skills.
Yeah.
I don't think you find that on resumes anymore. No, time has moved on, and as we've been able to automate processes, the skill set of just processing transactions, or even just Excel, and I'm saying just Excel, has really faded into the background. And now the skills are you analytical? Can you understand the number? Are you a great communicator? I mean, when I started accounting, we were thrown in the back office. We didn't get to communicate with anybody. But now we're up there in front, because now all the stuff, the back office stuff, is now done by the automation. We are now in the front.
Yeah.
And talking to the business partners, understanding the business, trying to drive great insights, using our analytical knowledge. In one of those very important skills for accountants, and I think I mentioned it, was we're in the back office, now we're in the front office, is a change in mindset.
Yeah.
Do you have the ability to come into it with a growth mindset, to go where no accountant's gone before, as it were, and try and figure out the best way to automate something, the best way to support the business and anticipate needs?
Totally. I remember, right, when I was a accountant working for CNA insurance company at the time, it was my first job, trying to do the bank reconciliation at the time. We just heads down to reconcile the bank account, debit and credit. That was all we do. But today, with my counterpart team, finance team or accounting team, they constantly come to me, hey, have you noticed the growth of these customers or any number decline, have you noticed? So they are very proactive, reaching out to me, really providing the information I didn't even think about, right? So that's the partner. Speaking of that, if you think of more of these accounting gets automated, the role of accountant is so changing from tracking source of value and reporting on them to actually creating value, right? Can you give us some examples of how you or your accounting team are creating value for Workday?
Well, this is where the fun happens, right? Is creating value and not just being in the back office and being a support drain. So all of our value adds it's essential for us to understand the business and finding those good solutions to support initiatives, and constantly being flexible on how to present and represent data with that open growth mindset. So I'm going to give you 5 examples.
I love that. Yes.
5 examples of where I'm proud and I think we're adding value to Workday. So first one is with integrations. We have some really, really cool software at Workday, and we're able to integrate acquisitions really fast. We had just 2 recent acquisitions, Scout and Peakon, which are reasonably big-sized companies. We're able to get them into Workday in 3 weeks.
Wow, impressive.
And a large part of that is to do with that Workday's flexible architecture and data model, and and everybody listening knows, integrating acquisitions quickly will help us get our talent up and running on day one, and help them feel part of the company and the culture, and also be able to quickly order stuff, because you know how important that is.
Yeah, especially with today's supply chain challenge. Yeah.
Yes, probably order it and wait for it for a while.
Yeah.
So effective cash management. So we all need real-time visibility into the cash, especially during these uncertain times. And especially, say, when you have a big cash event like an acquisition. My corporate accounting team benefits from our real-time visibility into our global cash position. I don't know if you know too much about Workday, but Workday has instant data. It's like data on demand, because we're continually posting transactions, and there's no lag with batch processing, etc. That you put on a dashboard on top of, our data lake that we have with all of our transactions, and you're able to get real-time information all the time, no lag. And that's super powerful. And that's what drives this ability to see cash, whenever you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's actually incredible. And so let's go to another thing that kind of blows my mind, which is closing our books.
Yeah.
I am fortunate to work for a company that values work-life balance. And most accountants, when you say, oh, close, they think about long hours, burning way past midnight oil.
That's what I used to do. That's why I switched field.
Well, maybe you didn't think that, because times are changing. So we close our books in less than 4 days, but they are not these super long, awful days of past.
Wow.
And we actually close AP on the last day of the month, which is also, it's actually only 4 days working on the close. It's not, oh, I close AP early and I'm working on my close longer. And what's really interesting, which just blows my mind, is that we are working towards a 0-day close.
Wow.
With Workday technology, we truly believe it's possible. And we've done our first use case, and I'll just let you into it, which is we were doing balance sheet hedging.
Oh my
and
God.
Balance sheet hedging would take us into day 2, and it's a hard day to entry. And we've been able to take all of the data, ingest it in one of our tools called Accounting Center. And literally within seconds, it's issuing journal entries, and detailed journal entries. So you don't lose the detail. They're not summary. You've got the detail. Because I've got a couple more for you.
Yeah.
I believe accountants give a lot of value to a company. So at a more detailed level, I'm really proud of this, that our corporate accounting team deployed a dynamic risk scoring based on systematic weighting of credit risk scores on customer collections data and on customer collections in general. So what we were able to do is have this risk scoring in the Workday, run it against our customers, and know which ones, that might need a little bit more concentration. And that in Workday talk, especially going through the pandemic, was identifying them and reaching out to them and saying, hey, what can we do to help you? And so that was really cool. And that was something we developed during the pandemic. And then to end it all off, my most favorite value add is that we have the ability to prepare a direct cash flow statement as part of normal reporting. And, everyone can get indirect cash flow statement prepared. And it used to be on a spreadsheet. Now you can actually get the system to kind of make it work. But I haven't seen anyone being able to do a direct cash flow statement. And I just think that's amazing. And it takes advantage of one of our dimensionalities, which is called work tags. And what work tags do is they literally tag all the data that comes in. And then, of course, if you've got it tagged right and say, oh, I don't know, cash from customers, then it turns up as cash from customers in your direct cash flow statement.
That's amazing.
It's incredible. And now it's just a press of a button and we get that reporting. So I think that's super powerful. And it really is an example of the power of Workday.
Absolutely. It's also really creating the value in real time, right? Thinking about that. Well, that's really resonate with me. And thank you for sharing that story. My 5th grader math teacher said, it does not exist if you cannot measure it. Or that made a major impact on me being a fact-driven or data-driven leader. So what metrics are you using to measure your accounting team's performance?
So I'm lucky again to work at Workday, and we have dashboards. And I heard when I first joined Workday, I was like, oh, you have these dashboards. That's great. And so I had my team work on Chief Accounting Officer's dashboard. And what that does is it collects the key metrics that you're talking about. And what I had my team do is each of my different towers, shall we say, pulled up metrics that were important to them as a good way to measure the performance of doing business of the finance function. And so I have a dashboard that has both financial and operational metrics. And the finance metrics that I like to keep an eye on, or have kept an eye on, which won't surprise you from the previous question, is looking at AR aging. How is that changing? Bringing in that risk metrics of which customers I should be looking at. What's my cash receipts? What's the DSO? And then looking at DPO too. And then if you switch that over to operational metrics, some of the items that we look at are things like how many invoices does an AP person process, or how much does cash receipts does an accountant process. Those ones are very simple, and they're also very telling of how well you're running your business and how much more automation there is. And the other one is one of my old favorites, is how many journal entries are manual. And I'm very proud to say that we have 98% of our journal entries are automated.
Wow.
So there is slim pickings now, but I'm all diving into that 2% to make it sure that we can get as close to 100% as you can.
Yeah, if you want to get to the 0-day close, right? Yeah. Obviously, you have to do some accruals. Some of the accounting accruals has to be manual unless it's recurring, right?
So when I think about accruals, I look at accruals and think about the PO, and then I think about how much of the PO has been used. Okay. And then the difference, if all things being equal and the process works, that's the amount that should be accrued.
Makes sense.
And so that's why I was yes, no, backwards and forwards with that answer, because if everything's in the system, yes, it could be automated. However, if you have some person that's not following the process and just runs in and goes, oh my goodness, I signed up with this accountant, they did this much work and here's the invoice, that would be a manual entry. And then that would be something we'd focus on and improve the process.
Makes sense. Have these metrics changed over the past 5 years? I don't believe so, but I wanted to hear that from you.
It's a very interesting question, but they really haven't.
Yeah.
I think we add different ones into the mix. I mean, as we've come up with OKRs and the fact that data is at the end of our fingers, you just have to put your fingers on the computer and then you've got masses of data. I think you can imagine more. But what has really changed is our ability to get good, reliable data. So I don't know if you remember, Helen, when I'd look at metrics, I'd be like, well, are you sure the data's right?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem right to me. Go figure it out. And then you'd sit in the back office, reconcile. Yeah. But now you know the data's right. Now you can concentrate on the other item, which is the important thing, which is making it more efficient, changing a process, doing whatever that data is telling you to do.
Totally. You're right. I mean, I think the metrics remain the same, but we have much more advanced technology to allow us to automate that whole process today. My last question to you is about your prediction on what would make the future or ultimate accounting team.
Well, as we look forward, and we talked about this the entire time we've been talking, which is automation and where is accounting going. And as I think about it, and I think about it with the backdrop of an instant 0-day close, we're not here to process anymore. We're really not even here to reconcile anymore. We're here to sit and understand the numbers, partner with the business, add value, and identify issues. And so then what skill sets do we need to be that? And we at Workday look at what the next gen of accountants, what skill sets they're going to need, and we think about it in 3 different ways. And we've mentioned, I think we've probably touched on all of them.
Yes.
But the first one is that mindset. Do you have a good mindset for change? Because if you want to keep doing the same thing and the same thing, then the future might not be good to you.
No.
And And then there's the skill transformation. So we've gone from doing this, we've gone from reconciling, and now we've got to go analytical. Do we understand the numbers? We have to have better communication skills. We've already mentioned that. And that just deeper sense of understanding what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Totally.
And then that third element is we have to understand technology, because that's the future. And if you don't understand the technology, then it's going to be really hard for you to step into that future. So understand technology, have a great partnership with your IT, and understand as much as you can about what the art of the possible is. And then we're going to have a great future.
Yeah, that's profound. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with me, Philippa. Here's my takeaway, right, from our conversation today. As accounting's responsibility expand, unexpected qualities like resilience, creativity, or empathy, or storytelling will help the CAOs achieve greater success, right? The number one most important question to ask for CAOs is, how do I shift from efficiency to impact? Well, the answer is really may not be clear, but one thing is really certain is the CAO is the leader in the band, influencing growth acceleration and the more expressive performance for the entire organization. So thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and tune in for the upcoming episode on Edge to Cloud with Intel. So stay hungry, stay bold, and stay grateful.